passed within about a foot of it. I just kind of held my breath and hoped for the best. And as I passed by, it lashed out at the canoe. Several times, and I was just terrified. I didn't know what to do. So I steered the canoe over to these paper barks and stood up, ready to jump into them. And as I stood up, the crocodile came up alongside me. And as I just got into the first branch, it just shot up out of the water, came up at incredible speed, and grabbed me in between the legs here, around here, pulled me down into the water, and pulled me under the water, rolled me. It's called the death roll. Spin you around under the water. I think it tries to drown you and also tries to sort of pull you apart, tear you apart. And that was really terrifying. I thought I was going to die for sure.
Val Plumwood is about to return to Kakadu. 9 months have passed since that afternoon. An afternoon spent canoeing alone in backwaters of the East Alligator River in northern Australia. The afternoon of the crocodile attack.
I don't know how long the roll lasted. It seemed to last a long time. Anyway, we came up eventually. And because I was hanging onto the mangrove, I was able to pull away from it quite quickly once it slackened its jaws. And I dodged around the back of the mangrove and I climbed the paper bark again. I didn't think I could climb the bank, so I got up into the paper bark. And at almost exactly the same point, I reached almost exactly the same point when it was just like a complete replay. It came up again, shot up out of the water with jaws. I've never seen the jaws and teeth, and got me again. So this time it got me around the thigh. That's why I got that rather strange-looking thigh. And I felt sort of hot sensation, but I didn't have time to think about it because it just pulled me down again, and it was all blotted out by the third roll. And then I got the idea of digging. Somehow, I don't know where it came from, I tried to dig my fingers into the mud. I dug my fingers into the mud and I found I could pull myself up the bank by just this very soft mud. I just dig them in and pulled myself to the top. I couldn't believe it. I stood up and I ran away.
Val Plumwood is an experienced bushwalker. She teaches environmental philosophy at a Sydney university, and her first visit to Kakadu National Park was prompted largely by professional interests. This time, it's to be a more personal journey.
My life was divided in two by the attack. For years I'd been writing and teaching in the cities about the importance and value of wilderness. I'd always felt at home in the bush and found joy in wild places. But since the attack, I've felt uneasy about being alone out there. Something in my life feels incomplete, and it'll be good for me to go back and work through those fears. In Darwin Museum, there's a crocodile called Sweetheart. I've been wanting to see it to help me prepare for a live encounter in Kakadu. scary. I know that one's dead, I guess. But I wouldn't be prepared to go too close to it. I can't see the nostrils, though. At one point, when it had hold of me, I jammed my fingers into the nostrils. But I can't see them on that one. Really makes you think of dinosaurs, though. Beautiful, flecked golden eyes. I got a good look at the eyes of mine. When I was standing up in the boat, ready to jump into the tree, it came up alongside me, and we stared. Then I jumped into the tree, and it came up after me. This might make it easier for me to cope with seeing a live one. I've heard Sweetheart's death was an accident. I wonder what happened. Maybe I'll find out in Kakadu. I think it's going to be really good for me to come back. It's a way to put that incident into the past. I couldn't do that down south. But here, it'll come into perspective. It won't just remain a frozen memory of something frightening and terrifying. Yes, I think it's really good for me to come back. Very powerful place. I have a deep respect for many areas that I've walked in, but Kakadu's become very special for me. Last time I was here, I did a walking trip alone for several days near the Arnhem Land Escarpment. Some call it the Stone Country. It's tremendously dramatic country. It really grips you. And because I was on my own, these feelings were intensified. That's one of the great things about solo walking. I knew this was a strong place and you had to be careful. But I didn't expect to have that brought home to me quite so dramatically. Sightseeing in day walks are one thing, but I haven't done any long solo bushwalks since the attack. I've only walked with other people. I think I could do it down south all right, but up here, I'm not so sure. I think you've got to respect the kind of power in this country. It's not just a question of appreciating its richness and beauty. We have to take care and realise to some extent that we're not always in control. It shouldn't be, perhaps. For me, the crocodile has become an important symbol of all that. It's a very powerful force here. That's how I thought of it myself after I'd been attacked and was dragging myself down the river. I remember then calling out aloud that I'd learnt my lesson. I was sorry I'd come too close. I hadn't paid enough respect. I felt very strongly then that the crocodile was like the spirit of the place. After I ran for a while, I stopped to check what was wrong with me and found that my left leg was in pretty bad condition. Been really badly ripped open. I hadn't had time to notice this before that. And so it was pretty shocking to look down and see what sort of, it was all sort of kind of hanging open. So I put on a tourniquet, and I felt immensely elated, of course, to have got away from it at that stage, because I thought that it had me that I was certain to die. So initially I was very elated, and then I realised I was going to have real trouble getting back to the ranger station.
When I got there, it was just on dark, and there was no canoe. And so then I began to think, well, evidently she's lost, because the paperbark swamp was quite a labyrinth. There's no clearly defined creek line or whatever to follow. It didn't take us very long to launch a boat, and with lights, we headed on upstream.
Well, I had to stop after a couple of hours because I was getting so weak. I knew I was going to just collapse if I didn't stop, so I had to look for a place to lie down and stop. So I just lay down and waited.
And so I cut the engine and called, and initially couldn't hear anything much. And I moved up a little bit closer along the rocks and called again. And then very faintly in the distance, I could hear what could have been a human. But of course, there's also dingoes and other things that call in the night.
I heard the sound of a motor and saw lights, and I started to call out.
She called out that she was badly injured. She'd been attacked by a crocodile, and we were stunned, quite frankly. We couldn't believe this. This was beyond what we had anticipated.
Couldn't even stand, couldn't crawl. So I would probably have died and probably have been drowned, and I may well have died anyway just from the wounds by the following day if he hadn't come out for me. The rest of that terrible night is just a blur. I've been told we went through swamps and flooded rivers. I don't remember much because I was drugged and in shock during the nightmare 12-hour trip to Darwin. The next day, a crocodile was shot. It was 2 months before I finally left hospital. During that time, my anger at the shooting of that crocodile increased. It seemed such a pointless thing to do. I wonder if the crocodile in Darwin Museum suffered a similar fate. I thought I'd come and see Dave Lindner. 6 years ago, he was given the job of moving Sweetheart from a billabong that was popular with fishermen.
That's him there. He's got a noose trap around him, behind his shoulders, a bit of industrial belting pulled tight around his shoulders. After he triggered the noose by pulling a bait. Just trying to noose his mouth so we can control him with a rope. And
there's a lot of crocodile there. It's stunning seeing it. I mean, it was really a knockout in the museum, the size of it. I was pretty frightened. If Sweetheart had moved a muscle, I would be out of there in no time.
He'd been chewing boats up for about 4 years at that time, attacking boats.
Did he try to attack the people in them?
No. My own feelings are very strongly that these were territorial attacks, aggression directed at another crocodile. But then Sweetheart, I don't think ever probably attacked anybody. We don't really know that.
That's interesting, isn't it? It attacked the boats, but it didn't attack the people, even when it could have.
When you listen to an outboard low revving and you listen to a crocodile territorial growl, it's a very low rumbling growl. They are similar.
Mm-hmm.
And
they make a low rumbling growl.
Yeah, throaty sort of a growl. It's no bella or anything.
I thought I heard that from the one that was attacking me, actually.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised.
Only I was
That'd be interesting if it was, though, because it would indicate aggression rather than predatory. We'd hit it with Flaxidil, which is a anaesthetic, and we started dragging the animal over. We had to take it across the Billabong to our truck, and at that stage I would say Sweetheart got a belly full of water. Its nose never went under, but it got a belly full of water somehow. I mean...
That's you there, is it, Dave?
Yeah, that's me.
That must have been pretty scary doing that.
Oh no, he's well trussed up there. None of the valves that shut in diving or anything in a crocodile work while they're under anaesthetic. They come out of anaesthetic to the point where they can be aggressive and dangerous, but these valves still don't work. You release them into a billabong, they go down and they drown. And that's what happened with this one. But I was very disappointed in the Sweetheart case that such a big crocodile couldn't have been protected out of its
Sweetheart's death seems to have been pretty unnecessary, like the death of the one that attacked me. Some people find it a real affront that anything should be around that can attack a human being. We wind up having vendettas against the whole species after someone's attacked. Since Sweetheart's death, Dave Linden's objection to moving crocodiles out of their domain has strengthened. For him, the crocodile's the most magnificent animal in Kakadu. He's got a real fascination with them. Crocodiles are part of this incredibly rich and diverse system here. Something I think we've just got to see is having some value in their own right. Not just something you can have or keep or get rid of because it's inconvenient for human beings. Perhaps it's just important that there be things that are independent of humans and aren't just there to serve us or made over in some way for us. When I was up here last, I stayed with Mick Austin before the attack. Mick's the law enforcement officer in Kakadu. He works in conjunction with the rangers, keeping the park under surveillance for poaching and other illegal activities. He often makes the long drive up to the coast to see a couple of ex-crocodile hunters. They keep an eye on things in their area. With 13,000 square kilometres to look after, I guess he needs all the help he can get. I'm beginning to come to terms with what happened to me, but I still don't know how I'd feel about being alone out here again. The drive out here takes several hours. Mick's told me about Fred and Bob and this place where they'll probably live out their lives. Surrounded by relics of hunting days, they've seen the saltwater crocodiles coming back around the beaches and estuaries of the great tidal rivers. These crocodiles are called alligators by old-timers, and during the dry season, they're often caught in the nets of barramundi fishermen. The selling of crocodile skins is illegal now, but I've heard that the prices are too tempting for some.
Oh, I've done all sorts of stupid things, buffalo shooting and crocodile shooting and all that.
Sounds like a fairly hard life.
The alligators are not that hard, the mosquitoes are the hardest.
All night shooting.
Mm-hmm. You tracked them with a spotlight? Or?
Spotlight, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing to it, really.
And you just shot them. Were there any problems in it?
Oh, sometimes.
Dangerous?
Oh, I wouldn't say dangerous.
How did
Range shot from here to Mike, because you shoot from, say, a 6-foot range, and always tell a killer shot, you see blood straight away.
What about this one that, when you fell out of the dinghy, how did that happen?
Well, he was shot, but he wasn't shot properly. He only shot with a 22.
Right.
He's only wounded. Only a little 8, 9-foot dinghy. There were 3 of us in it. We all finished up in the water. We fell out of the dinghy, and one finished up hanging on the back of me trousers.
Right. How big was it?
All about 8 and 9 foot.
Oh, that doesn't sound too good. Now, how did you get out of it so lightly?
Well, I finished up. He had hold of me, and I had hold of his nose, and he wasn't letting go, and I was making sure he wasn't letting go. He wasn't going to get another bite, so we had to find the knife in the bottom of the water hole, water's chest deep.
Yeah?
I had hold of him by the nose around the back of me behind, and put the knife in the back of his neck.
Oh, wow.
They make up their mind, they're coming, they're coming. No matter whether you're on your own or whether you're with somebody else.
Right.
If you're just an unlucky one, well, you're the one that's going to be bit.
Yeah, that's sort of how I see it.
You were on your own, weren't you?
Yeah. So, there were a lot of them around when you started shooting? Or?
Oh, it all depends where you're shooting. But most places there are plenty of crocs. No worries.
And what happened is, as hunters, Bob and Fred had to try and understand the crocodile and its habits. That led to a certain amount of respect for the animal, I guess. But it wasn't much consolation for the crocodiles. Did it stay like that, with all those numbers?
Oh, no, you thinned them out naturally. Covered a lot of country too, haven't you? Down the west coast.
It was the skins they were all after. From what I've heard, they came pretty close to wiping out the crocodile up here. By the 1970s, the waterways at Kakadu were just about emptied of them. It was protection that saved them. Now the numbers are increasing every year, and Kakadu's become one of the world's richest crocodile habitats.
Tony Prester Hank Jenkins. Tony Prester Hank Jenkins. Copy, Tony.
Roger, Hank, how's things out at the trap this morning, over?
Well, we've got one, mate. I can't really estimate its size. It's underwater at the moment. Over.
The National Parks people are doing a lot of crocodile research up here. One of the things they're looking into is what happens if you move a problem crocodile out of its territory. No one really knows whether they'll come back or not. A lump of buffalo meat is the bait that draws them into the trap. This will be my first look at a live crocodile since the attack.
occasion to be way too standing on that. Come around here. You're right.
That's the sound I remember. Dave Linder was the first person to verify what I thought I'd heard during the attack.
Okay, you got the strain? Yep.
Once that tranquiliser takes effect, they'll sew a radio transmitter onto its neck. Then they can monitor its movements after it's been relocated. Oh, I'm pretty sure that the one that attacked me was quite a bit bigger than that one. After looking at that.
Yeah, if it was, Val, you're an extremely lucky woman. Well, you're an extremely lucky woman anyway, to go through what you went through and survive. The power that those animals there have got has to be seen to be believed. And
but the head is not as big as I recall, and the head and the jaws are quite a bit bigger. It's hard for me to see the total length because it was under the water except when it jumped.
Yeah.
But the head and the jaws are not as big as I recall from that one. I guess I expected to be more frightened than I am. Perhaps it's good that I'm not especially frightened of that particular crocodile, though I'm certainly a lot more afraid than anybody else here. I wouldn't be getting as close to it as the others here, or relying as heavily on that anaesthetic they're using. But yes, I think it's good that I'm not really too frightened of it. It's part of getting over what happened. The whole idea of relocating problem crocodiles strikes me as being a bit worrying. What really concerns me is the idea that if something becomes a problem, if there's a conflict with human interests, then it's the human interests that always win out. It seems to me that that's getting the priorities wrong. For me, one of the things that's important to respect is the independence of the natural world. Its capacity to go on in a way that's independent of us. That's a really important part of our relationship to it. But if it all becomes just managed, just another managed wild farm, then that's not the way it should be.
Watch its back leg. That's it. Well, he's transmitting, Hank.
For at least 60,000 years, Aboriginal people have occupied this land with the crocodile. You can see evidence of this today at some of their art sites, which are preserved with the help of the National Park Service. This painting here, can you tell me a bit about this crocodile painting?
Well, this painting's going to be there forever, I reckon. Story is, in dreaming days, a long time ago, he was a man first, you know. This bloke here was a heavy sleeper. He was sleeping all day. And I tried to wake him up. Wake up, come on, we gotta go. He just stayed there, he was sleeping. And then the rainbow bird, he went up there to get the fire stick, you know. He set a fire, crocodile got burnt. Then he raced up into the water. And that's when he got all them blisters, all them lumps on his back.
Toby Gangali is one of the traditional owners of Kakadu. They've leased the area to Australia as a national park. But Toby and others remain the guardians of sacred places, like the home of the rainbow serpent.
That thing can go anywhere, kill everybody, you know. You know it's going to be very dangerous for everyone. That's the story, you know. That's why we won't let everybody go up there. I don't go up there myself.
One does have to realise that this is a park in which there are a lot of Aboriginal sites, and the priorities of Aboriginal people are very important. For my solo walk last year, I didn't resent having to get a permit or having my route checked out beforehand. It's a pretty fair thing to safeguard against bushwalkers infringing on places they shouldn't go into. But it seems to me that the National Parks people have to perform a pretty impossible balancing act here. On one hand, they have to protect Aboriginal interests and the interests of the land itself, but on the other, they have to cater to the encroaching demands of 20th century society. I think some people here aren't paying the place enough respect. They're treating it pretty badly, and maybe, as Toby says, they're going to feel its power too. There's an overconfidence there, and a feeling that human beings can do anything to the natural world they like and get away with it. Here we have a World Heritage Park in which there's really an awful lot of development going on. There are major mining operations as well as major tourist development, and that's all having an impact on large areas of the park. I guess the rangers work on the front line of that dilemma. James Walker was one of my rescuers. For an Aboriginal ranger, coping with those conflicting interests must be pretty difficult. One of the legacies of European settlement in this area is feral animals. Wild pigs and buffalo inflict continual damage on this environment, and national parks conduct regular culling operations to try and minimise their effects. A friend of mine has been working with Big Bill Nagy and has arranged for me to meet him. Bill's an elder of the Kakadu people who gave their name to the area. I'd arranged to spend time with him on my first visit, but the attack put an end to that. A lot of Bill's ideas have been recorded and published, and I've been making use of some of them in my teaching. Bill's a guardian of this place. To the Aboriginal people, it's known as white cockatoo dreaming. They say that long ago, the rock was split open by the shrieks of two white cockatoos as they flew over.
Yeah, this one mullet. See that head?
Gee, that's beautiful.
Broken. Yeah. Break him off.
Break him off when they killed him.
They used to take him out on the bank. They used to break him and throw him out. Because they say if you throw them back in the water, they grow again in there. This one here, a water python, I think. This one, you can hardly see the head. Another barramundi. They used to steer them fish and throw them on a fire and eat them.
What's this one here, Bill?
Rainbow serpent. Rainbow, look head.
The rainbow serpent.
That head, yeah, rainbow one. That snake bud used to go through there, but buffalo been rub it over here.
Yes, I see that.
Right up there.
Right. right.
very old. This
A
one
place
old.
like this is beautiful not just for the paintings, but also because of the place itself. Perhaps the people who put the paintings there so long ago thought of it that way too. Not so much as an imposition of human paintings on the landscape, but as a sort of celebration of a particularly significant place. That's the way I like to think of it anyway. The human element just seems to complement the natural one. It seems to be a perfectly harmonious addition to it. For Big Bill, it's really important that the stories and ideas about this land survive. He can see them coming under increasing threat, and he passes on his knowledge with great urgency. He's one of the main advisors to the National Parks people on many conservation issues. But he also takes every chance to teach a new generation about the value of his country and the spirits who are part of it. I feel I've come to terms enough with what happened to me to face going out on the water again. A strange feeling. I'm not sure whether I want to see a crocodile or not. I guess it feels all right with Nellie and Peter here. But I hope I don't get too scared if one does appear. Now, what sort of food would you have found in this area?
File snake.
File snake.
Just live on them. Fish, barramundi.
Any crocodiles?
Yeah, my dad used to get crocodiles around here.
What do they taste like?
Like, just same as fish.
What's that?
Barramundi.
Ah.
It looks like a big barramundi.
That's a fish bubble.
Yeah.
Crocodiles make bubbles too.
They're, bigger and faster.
Bigger bubbles?
Yeah.
Well, if you see one, any crocodile bubbles, tell me.
Yeah, okay.
When you see a crocodile, do you get frightened of it?
Yeah.
Not as frightened as I am, though.
The big ones I'm frightened of, though.
What's that? Something in there. Can you see something in there?
Just a goanna.
Pretty shallow here. See the fish moving around.
Yeah, I suppose it's the sort of place where you wouldn't want to sort of encounter a crocodile too, isn't it? Oh my God.
You're right, you're right.
That doesn't look much problem, that little crocodile. That's just what I need to start off with, a little crocodile.
Yeah, they're nice of that size.
They try to do any harm at that size?
Oh, like any animal, if you try and catch it, doesn't like it, it'll have a go. Yeah, my only experience with the crocodiles being inquisitive of people in boats, really inquisitive enough to come up and sort of investigate you quite thoroughly, has mainly been in the wet season. I remember being just out here a little while, last wet season, and I was with a person who we were launching the boat from the shore and she fell out into the water. Just slipped right in the bank. There was no drama about it at all, but there was a little crocodile, a little bit bigger than this one, about 40 metres or so away, and as soon as he heard that splash, bang, started coming straight towards us to see what was going on.
This land brought up crocodile, river, fish. They live together in the water. This Kakadu, land for the crocodile, because crocodile was staying here many years. He brought up all this, so he belonged to this river.
So you reckon that crocodile, it belongs to this country, it's got a place in this country?
When he grow up, he stay. So if you shift him to other place, he might be worrying.
Wants to come back to its country.
He gotta come back to right place, because like we make a home, right?
Yeah.
I live in Cannon Hill. Well, I got a home there with a crocodile in the water. You make him a little bit hollow place to camp there. You take him other place, he'll be worried about his home. They all the same, these animals, all same feeling. A tree, he can listen, that tree. Leaf, he can listen. While you go sleep till you waken, well, you got pump in your blood, eh? That tree got water too, that is blood. Plenty people, they don't understand this.
If you start spoiling this country, what'll happen?
Oh, I might feel funny. Worry me, might get worse and worse sick, or might be terrible headache. Because spirit's watching us. If I do wrong, don't look after this country, will I get punished?
I knew it'd be good for me to come back to Kakadu. Finally, I feel ready to go walking alone again. When you're walking, especially when you're alone, you get a different sense of yourself, I think, as part of something much larger than you are. And people shouldn't get the idea that this is somehow risk-free. There are risks in this environment. When you do things, I found this when I was here before, there's just that little undertone of fear. I don't think that does any harm. I think perhaps it's a good way for people to measure their place in the natural world. In a safer environment, they very easily get the idea that they're on top of it all. It's much harder here. I guess that's one of the things I really like about this place. I think there's a reason to respect the independence of nature, regardless of whether humans derive enjoyment from it or not. That's great if they do, but it's not the only reason for saying a place like this should be left. Big Bill said animals and trees are like us. He said the rocks grew here. The rocks are something to respect too. They're not just rocks. They're part of an ongoing process that goes back over huge periods of time, which is the basis of this whole system. We've got to make sure we don't interfere with that.